In this video, I'm going to tell you guys my very long emotional story of why I quit consulting. This video is not meant to discourage anyone, and because it's really long, I just want to say the moral of this story is listen to your heart, okay? Listen to what your heart is telling you. If you know you need to leave something, don't let amount of months of work experience, don't let the name of the company, don't let other people, don't let anything discourage you with a big decision like that. You need to look inwards, and when it's time to leave, you usually know it in your gut. So keep that in mind and enjoy the video.
Do anything for the cash. Do anything for the cash.
Hi everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today's video is going to be different and maybe a little bit emotional. This video is going to be talking about why I quit my Big Four consulting job. I'm not quitting to do nothing. I'm quitting to go to another corporate job, but it was a pretty big deal to make this decision. Consulting is a job that I wanted for a long time. It's a job that many people strive for. It's a job that I really strived for, and I stressed myself out and worried about getting, and I got it. I wasn't happy, and I decided I needed to quit. So today I'm going to be telling you guys that story. I'm going to tell you guys why I quit. Even if you're not in Big Four or if you're not in consulting, I think this story could be beneficial just for applied to any work situation. It's going to be kind of a story about trusting your gut, doing things that are scary, and knowing when you need to leave something that's not meant for you. So if that interests you, let's get into the video. If you're new to my channel, hi, I'm Zoe. I've made videos about work weeks in my life while working as a consultant, videos about fashion. I also love fitness and making vlogs and stuff. So totally check out my other videos. Usually I'm really happy and great. So yeah, check out my other videos. Subscribe if you like what you see. You can also follow me on Instagram and on TikTok as well. I have everything on the screen, but I just want to get into this video. I just want to chat with you guys. I feel like I've been keeping a secret and not being fully able to be myself in real life and on my channel for the past few months. So I'm just ready to get this information out there for you guys. So I have everything written down in my journal. I might just be kind of referring to it because I really want to cover everything that I feel is important for this video. So yeah, before we get into the negatives and all of that, I just want to say this video is not meant to discourage anyone from going into Big Four. I think it will give you a more realistic idea, things that people don't talk about. So I don't want to be discouraged, and I am going to go through some positives at the very beginning of this video in just a second. But when you're looking for a job, and I just want to say this for anyone who's looking into consulting and maybe stumbled across this video, when you're looking for a job, people don't tell you the truth. They're going to tell you that the hours are better than they are. They're going to tell you that the culture is better than it is. Everyone puts their best and the company's best face forward, and no one's going to be fully honest with you about the realities of consulting. So this video is going to be super honest. I hope I don't get in trouble or offend anybody for it, but yeah, keep that in mind. I'm not vengeful or anything about the company. I don't feel like I got screwed over or anything. So this video is really just for the sake of honesty and transparency and telling my story. So the good things about this job, let's start. First of all, we had a great week of training. Not everyone gets this amazing week, but because of the program that I was in, we had a week of basically all expenses paid training in Toronto. I know if you're located in the US, you have a lot of trainings that are centralized in different places. So the opportunity to be put up in a hotel and sort of wined and dined for a week, being on an expense account for a week was really, really great. That was a lot of fun and a really cool opportunity to start out my professional career. You guys actually saw that Outfits of the Week video, and I'll link it down below or maybe insert a clip right here where I was so happy to be there, and I was so grateful to be in Toronto and be in such a nice hotel that I was kind of moved to tears. Got to my room, I feel like a little kid. I'm on the 34th floor. I think she bumped me up because I checked in early and this one was ready. I don't know, but check out this view, you guys. Oh my gosh, you can see the whole city of Toronto. You just can't see the CN Tower because it's actually right there, like it's next to this building, but this is so beautiful. I feel like I'm looking at like New York or something. I'm just like in shock. I am so grateful and happy to be here. Like, I can't believe I'm here for like a work thing. I never thought that like I would be able to get a job like this right out of university, one that sends you you know, away for a week for training and that like puts you up in a hotel like this. Like, I can't believe it. I'm like actually crying right now. Like, I worked really hard in school to get here, but I still just feel like I'm like happy crying. Like, I'm such a loser. So that was a really positive experience that came out of this. What else did I say that was good? Oh, I met some amazing people. I made some really good friends from working at my old job. So yeah, you know, you can never go wrong with good friends. I got to travel for trainings, like I mentioned, and then another training. Got to be put up in a hotel, got to travel for some client work, which was cool. I got to take the train VIP, so that was fun. Getting to stay in a hotel, getting meals expensed, like that's really cool. We also had some cool 5S sets, like happy hours that were open bar. So that was good. And also really, oopsies, some really good learning opportunities. I got to go to a Agile or Scrum Master training for 2 or 3 days, I forget. I think it was 2 days. And I got to have that paid for me. So all of those are some really positive things that I took out of this job. Unfortunately, none of that was strong enough to outweigh the negatives, but those are some good things. And the other thing I want to say, my experience does not reflect another person's experience. It doesn't reflect what your experience might be. Everyone's different, and that applies for every single job. So we all just, I think, as young people starting our careers, need to remember that everyone's different, everyone's experience is different, and not to compare ourselves to other people. If you look at someone who's having a great time and you're having a shit time, don't think what's wrong with you. Just know that it's normal for, you know, it's about luck, it's about timing, it's about the people you're working with. Everything has an effect. So yeah, don't compare your experience to anyone else's. Just, you know, learn from theirs, and yeah, that's all I have to say. Okay, so now let's get into the juice that everyone wants. Now I'm ready to get off my chest, okay? Enough being politically correct. Great. So, yes, I worked in Big Four consulting. It was something that I wanted for a very long time. I did everything I could. I practiced the cases, practiced the interviews, and I got hired at a Big Four firm. I'm not going to say which one, but yeah, it was a Big Four firm. I studied human resources and finance, in case anyone is wondering. That's what I studied, Bachelor of Commerce. And yeah, so let's get into it. So the timeline goes like this. We started and we had an initiation week in Toronto. That week was really fun. I was like on a high the entire time. I really loved it. I loved the people. I loved meeting everybody. But we were really just with all the new starters. So in consulting, very often, the way it works is new grads are recruited all at once, and they kind of start in a cohort. So they had flown all of the cohorts from across Canada to the head office in Toronto to do this training. And the training was like fun, like the training itself, I'm talking about the material, was fun. A lot of it's just propaganda about the company, like how great it is, how great you are, how great your colleagues are, like everybody's great, but you don't really learn anything concrete. That said, it was really fun. You know, we got to go out for dinner, we got to have 5S sets, like I was in another city, I was in a hotel. It was a fun week. But sort of everything felt weird when I got to the Montreal office the next week. So the first week was out of the office, second week was first day in the office. And as soon as I walked into the Montreal office, my heart and my gut just like clenched up, and I was like, this ain't it. And I remember feeling so stressed. I remember feeling so not myself. And I was just like, what's wrong? Like, what's going on? And I missed Toronto. I wanted to be back in Toronto. And I was just like, this isn't right. Like, this doesn't feel good. And I'm someone who is super intuitive. I'm very like connected with my emotions, and I can read myself really well. And my body just tells me when things aren't right. Like, I don't know how to explain. That sounds super like woo, but yeah, I don't know. I have like physical reactions to things, and I just know right away when things are good and things aren't good for me. And this wasn't good for me. I didn't feel confident talking to anyone. There wasn't anyone that I was like dying to network with. And usually when you enter a company, you're like, oh, I want to meet this person. I want to meet that person. At least that's like what my colleagues were like. They're like, I can't wait to, I've already stalked all these people on LinkedIn and I already know like who I want to work with and what kind of projects I want to be on. And I was just like, oh, like, I don't know. Like I had just graduated like 3 months prior and I was on exchange for like the last 5 months of my studies. Like I was so lost. I didn't know what was going on. And I kind of just didn't want to be there. And it just, like I said, didn't feel right. So that was the first week. We had training for the first 2 days and I felt that we were left very alone. That's one of the like downsides to such a large company is it's so organized to the point that it's not user friendly, because whenever we had a question about like submitting our timesheet, it was like, oh, there's a published article about that online. Like, don't bother me, just go read it. And it was a lot of like, don't bother me, go read it, go figure it out yourself. And I was told like, if you bother your manager about this, like they're busy, they don't have time to deal with that stuff. So like figure it out on your own. And if you had a question, you had to like call a national service center. It was literally like a 1-800 number. And I remember in the beginning, like my internet wasn't working, my computer wasn't working, and I had to like submit a ticket and be on hold. And I was like, why am I on hold? Like I'm an employee here. Like this is weird. So that's just like kind of the downsides to working in such a big corporation, is that like, yeah, just this lack of like humanness, that you're very independent, figure it out yourself. So from day one, I didn't like that. And I felt alone and I felt lost, even though I had 7 other people who started at the same time as me, who were in the same boat as me. Like I just felt super isolated. So in consulting, you are staffed on projects. So you're not like doing a same thing every day when you go in. You're staffed on a certain project, and when the project ends, you're on to another one. I was staffed on a project. I remember learning that that project was in Ottawa, and I remember being so anxious because I didn't want to travel. A lot of the time, the way it works in consulting is you are on client site from Monday to Thursday. So that means that if your project's in Ottawa and you live in Montreal, you have to stay in a hotel from Monday to Thursday. And I really didn't want that. I have an apartment here that I love. I have friends here. I have my gym that's so important to me. So I was like not loving that, and that really stressed me out. That ended up working out because we didn't have to travel that much. But all that to be said, I was on a project from the beginning with a manager who in the beginning seemed great. And she is so smart and so hardworking and like definitely someone to look up to. But I just think that she hasn't quite mastered the skills of being a manager yet. She's an amazing worker, but not necessarily an amazing manager. So I was just kind of thrown into it with like very little guidance, very little mentoring from her. Everything I did was bad, was not good enough. And she had a weird style of working where she would call me at like 3, 4, 5 p.m., give me a list of things to do the next day. And then I'd send them to her in the morning, and she would spend the day fixing them without giving me feedback, and then call me again at 5. So I was working like inverse hours. I was up till like midnight every night, just like working on things that like didn't see the light of day because she changed them all without explaining to me. And when I would ask for help, like it wasn't really given to me. And I remember just like sitting at my desk, like over there, and just like crying like every night, being like, what am I doing? Why am I awake? And I was trying to maintain this sense of work-life balance. So I was waking up at 6 a.m. every day to go spinning, and I was going to bed at midnight or 1. Like I was literally running on no sleep, like so unhealthy. And I was miserable, and I didn't want to admit it. I didn't want to admit it to myself. I thought it would pass. Yeah, it was bad. I remember too being on client site, and my managers wouldn't introduce me to the client. So I would just be sitting in the room, like literally just like a monkey there to take notes. And the client didn't even know my name. And then later I had a performance evaluation where I was told that like I didn't stand out in the room. And I was like, well, how can I stand out when you haven't introduced me? And it's not my place to be like, oh, they didn't introduce me, like, you know, just with the hierarchy of it all. So that was really bad. My first project was honestly a nightmare. What ended up happening was my self-confidence deteriorated. I was having negative self-talk with myself every day, telling myself, you're stupid, you're not good enough, you shouldn't be here, it's a mistake that you're here, I don't know how they let you in. Really, really like awful thoughts, and I knew they were bad. And I'm getting emotional. I knew they were bad, and I remember talking with my mom being like, how can I get rid of these thoughts? Like, how do I make them go away? And she was like, but you know they're not true. But the actions of everyone around me didn't prove that they weren't true. Like, people changing my stuff, people not taking the time to explain things to me, like none of that proved that I was smart or that I should be there, right? So that was really, really hard. The next thing I want to say is that in consulting, you are expected to network within the company. You are expected to be going on coffee chats, learning about things from people. And the main purpose of that is, one, to learn, but it's also to get staffed on projects. So you essentially have to schmooze your way through the job, and I hate schmoozing. It's fake, it's not genuine, and it sucks. Because of my bad start, I lost my confidence and ability to schmooze, which leads to problem number 2 in this whole story. I didn't schmooze, I didn't network, I barely knew anyone within the firm. And one night we were at a fundraiser within work, and I get a call from my manager. And she says, as of tomorrow, you need to start looking for a new project because you're not continuing on this one. And I was like, what? Because there had been talks of me staying on until December, and this was in November, so a month early. And I was just like, what? Like, I was so confused. And she was like, yeah, you're not staying on, like, start looking for something else. And it, like, kind of broke my heart because it felt like I was getting fired, and I had put so much energy into this project and so much time, and I was just like, now I'm fired? Like, it didn't make any sense. So here I am, no project, having to start looking for a project, but I have no self-confidence, I have no connections within the firm, and I don't have the confidence to go make new ones. The other problem with that was we were really in a bit of a dry spell, so there wasn't any projects for me, which led to me being on the bench, as they call it, which means you're not currently on a project. So when you're on the bench, your job is to network, your job is to figure out what's going on, and your job is to, like, do learnings and trainings. So I would go to the office every day and do nothing. I was wasting my time, but I had to be at the office in case someone could grab a coffee, in case someone could network. And I remember networking with people and saying, oh, I'm interested in this project. And they'd say, yeah, we'll let you know if something opens up. And then they would just choose someone else. So you can kind of see the pattern here of my self-confidence just literally falling apart. Like, they tell me they're gonna staff me and then they choose someone else. Or they tell me they're gonna staff me and they never follow up. And then also what was happening was I was getting options to get staffed, but it was all travel projects and I didn't want to travel. So, like, I was just constantly stressed. My anxiety was, like, up to here all the time. I always felt like I was about to be relocated. I always felt like my life was about to just, like, ugh. Like, it was just so stressful. And during this whole period, I was really feeling like I had lost myself. I would come home exhausted. I didn't want to hang out with my friends. I didn't want to have fun. I didn't want to do anything. All I wanted to do was shop and drink, honestly. Like, on the weekends, I wanted to go out and drink and, like, not worry about my problems, which is, like, so unhealthy. I just wasn't happy. I wasn't happy at all. I was depressed. I didn't feel it right away. I kept thinking to myself, like, no, this is fine. This is you adjusting. But no, I was depressed. I kept also telling myself, well, why is work affecting the rest of your life? Work shouldn't be affecting the rest of your life so much, but it just did. And, like, I think that anyone who says that work and your life are separate is just not telling the truth, and it's not realistic because you spend so much of your day there, especially in a job like consulting. It's not 9 to 5. It's not 30 hours a week. It's 40, it's 50, it's sometimes 60, it's more. Like, that is your life, and you deserve to be happy, and you shouldn't be depressed, and you shouldn't be sucking it up. So we'll get into that later. I want to continue on the story, but this whole time I would be talking with my parents saying, I want to leave, I want to quit. I talk with my friends, I want to leave, I want to quit. Anyway, my friend Michelle and we were always talking, and I was always telling her, like, Michelle, this isn't right. Like, this isn't it. Like, I can't do this. And she was like, yeah, you got to figure something out. Like, you got to figure a way. So the wheels had started turning. Problem number 3, I get called into a feedback meeting with my coach, and I get told that they know about my double life and that the YouTube videos need to not talk about work anymore. So I had uploaded a work week in my life as a consultant. I didn't say where I worked. I didn't say what clients I was working on. I didn't say anything bad. And that video actually did really well. I got a lot of great comments on it saying that it helped people, and that made me so happy. And I wanted to make more videos like that. And then I was told, nope, not allowed to make videos talking about work. It's like, could damage the company's reputation, like whatever. And I just felt in that moment so angry, and I felt like my voice was being silenced like by the man. And I was like, oh, like stick it to the man, you know? I felt censored is what I felt. I felt like further proof that I couldn't be myself at this place. And that was maybe in November too. So this was kind of all of these things happening at once. Let me check my notes and see if I'm on track. While I was on the bench, I would get staffed on these little side projects that gave me so much anxiety that if I didn't finish them in time, I remember there was one morning I was lying in bed and I had to show something to a manager, but I had so little faith in myself and my work that I literally was paralyzed in my bed crying because I was afraid to go to work, because I was afraid that she would tell me my work was trash. And there was I had a few days like that where I could not get out of bed because I was so afraid. I was just so afraid that someone was gonna yell in my face that my work was awful. And no one ever yelled at me, okay? I don't wanna say that people are evil, nothing. Nobody ever yelled at me. No one ever said to me like, you're shit, you're trash. No one said that, but it was like, that's how I felt, okay? I could feel that these people didn't like me. So, okay, that's the other point here. So, fast forward to Christmas break. Now I'm off for basically 2 weeks, and I'm with my family. We're traveling, we're hanging out, and my like soul refills. And I felt genuinely happy for the first time in months. And I remember talking on the phone with my friend Gracie. We were FaceTiming, and I was just like, Gracie, like, I feel what it is to be happy right now, and that's not how I felt the last few months. And she was like, I know, like, I can see it, I could tell. And I knew that things had to change. I knew that I couldn't keep going this way. I had kept on telling myself, give it a year, stick it out. But the moment that clicks, that you realize that you're not yourself, that you're losing yourself, and that you're miserable, you need to listen to that moment. You need to know that it's okay to get out, and that society structures these rules of 6 months, of 1 year. Honestly, F that. You don't need that. You don't need to wait. Like, if it ain't right, it's not gonna get better. So here we go. Problem number 3, okay? This was the breaking point. So after Christmas, I realized I either need to get out or I need to change my attitude. And I was scared to leave. I had a great job. I had a great salary. I had a good name on my CV. So I said, I'm gonna change my attitude. I'm gonna come back from Christmas break. I'm gonna be a fresh start. I'm gonna be confident, and I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna make a good job here. And the first week starts, things are going well, and it becomes Friday around 4 p.m. I get an email saying, you are being moved to audit since you are not staffed in consulting. For those of you who don't know, most of the big fours, if not all of them, also perform accounting services. And audit is accounting. So it's the review of the financial statements at the year end of companies. And it is a very boring job. Even the auditors will tell you it is a boring job. There's nothing wrong with that job. It's a necessary step for many people who studied accounting and who want to get their CPA designation. Audit is a good job and a necessary step, but I didn't study accounting. I have no desire to work as an auditor. You wouldn't put someone in marketing who didn't study marketing and doesn't want to do marketing. So they put me in audit. During the busy season, which is, how do you explain this? Basically, at the year end, the companies have 90 days, public companies have 90 days to disclose their financial statements. So Apple, for example, who is a public company, has shareholders, has 90 days to issue their statements to the public. These statements, before they can be issued, need to be audited and reviewed by a licensed firm. Hence what we were doing, hence the audit. Now, 90 days is not a lot of time. Most audit groups are understaffed and overworked, and you are working a minimum of 10 hours a day. Okay? Accounting. I don't want to do accounting. 10 hours a day? Are you crazy? My heart broke in that moment, and I had one of the worst weekends I'd ever had in my life. I felt so helpless because the email was sent at 4 p.m. There was no way that I could get out of it. It was just a mess. I realize this video is getting really long and I need to wrap it up. So I won't go into the details of the transfer to audit, but in that moment, I knew I had to get out. What did I do? I channeled my brave season, and I realized that things can't get any worse, so YOLO, essentially. I ended up messaging someone that I'd met at a case competition who was the CEO of a technology consulting firm in Montreal, but also worldwide. And he told me they were hiring, and I got a job. So it's so crazy that when you know you need to leave and you decide you need to leave, the right thing falls into place. Today was actually my first day at this new job. I am filming a work week in my life for it, so stay tuned for that video. But everything falls into place as it's meant to. So that's the end of my story. Now, I do just want to talk a little bit, I want to rant a bit about listening to your heart, listening to your gut, and not staying when you know you don't need to stay. So like I mentioned in this video, so many times I felt that I needed to give it 6 months. I needed to give it a year. But why? And when I decided to quit and when I told people that I was leaving, because when we got transferred to audit, a lot of people threatened to quit. Like there was 3 of us who got transferred and some of us were like, yeah, we're leaving. I personally didn't, because I don't think that's the right move to make. I don't think you should announce that you're leaving until you're officially leaving. But we had some people call us and try and convince us to stay. And I was just like, what's the point? Like, I'm not happy. I know that I will do better somewhere else. So the name of the company, the status, the whatever, it's all BS, okay? Like it's all BS. Whether you work for Big Four, whether you work for McDonald's, and actually like McDonald's is great. McDonald's is a bad example of a place to work because I know people love working at McDonald's. Okay, anyway, whether you work at Big Four, whether you work at like nowhere, whatever, it doesn't matter. It's all just like a fake construct of people who think they're important because they work for a large company. The fact is, in a large company, you are just a number. Yes, it can be a great job. Yes, you can have a great experience, but where you work is not reflective of you. So if you know it's not right and you're miserable, this is your sign. Get out. There's something better for you. Don't worry about the name. Don't worry about like the amount of months of experience. It doesn't matter. Listen to your heart, okay? If I did it, you could do it. So that is my experience. That is my long ass story of why I quit consulting. It's funny, this is actually the second time I filmed it. The first time I was like trying to just brush through it and it lasted 10 minutes. But I wanted you guys to have the emo mini crying filled version. So yeah, that's my story. I hope it helped you. And stay tuned for other videos from me that are more happy, more positive. And videos from my new job because we're excited about that, okay? So yes, thank you for watching. Good luck with whatever you're going through. If you're applying to Big Four, don't let this video discourage you. Just keep it as a piece of information and consider trying out smaller consulting firms. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. You will have an amazing career no matter what. Bye.